Welcome to Clean Plates, where every bite tells a story. I'm Brian Romaine, joining you on a culinary journey to understand the whys behind our diets and desires. Every bite tells a story. I'm Brian Romaine, joining you on a culinary journey to understand the whys behind our diets and desires. Joining me today is Jessica Cushenberry. Jessica, how are you doing today? I hope I pronounced that correctly.
You can call me Jess. It's easier. And Cushenberry. Yep, you got it. When I was a firefighter, they just called me Cush, so you can call me that too.
No, for sure. I just wanted to make sure I pronounced at least your last name and everything correctly for you. But yeah, Jess, how are we doing today?
We're doing awesome. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, Jess, yeah, like I was telling you earlier, you have quite an interesting background and bio, and I'm really, really stoked to have you on today. You have your degree in exercise science and nutrition. You grew up in Georgia, if I'm not mistaken.
So I grew up in Mass, and then I came down to Georgia for college.
Okay, yeah, cool. So what was it like growing up in Massachusetts? Did you have any sort of like sports that you played growing up or anything like that?
So I was very athletic growing up. I did track, basketball, and soccer. My main sport was track. That's what I went to state in and did best with. Soccer was just to kind of keep in shape for all the others. But it was great. I just love athletics, and that's actually how I got into exercise science. Is my mom had access to all the exercise science labs at UMass Amherst. So she'd take me in there, and I was just fascinated. I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. So that's what led me down that path.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, absolutely. So growing up in Massachusetts and you being so athletic, were your eating habits like kind of based around, sports and like keeping, maintenance on your body for that type of activity?
So it was interesting because so I'm going to date myself a little bit here. I am 46 years old, so there's that.
Well, you look fantastic.
Thank you. I'm like 29 plus shipping and handling in my head, but 46 years of actual experience on the planet.
That's how a funny way to put it.
That's how I think about it.
Plus shipping and handling. I'm going to steal that. That's a good one.
All yours. So back in the day, the good old days, they would have us just super carb up before meets, during meets, before games. And so I thought that's the best way to fuel the body was just a bunch of pasta, because that's what we did, and bagels and all that, especially being in the Northeast. And when I got to college, I learned a much better way. That's a much more healthful approach. But I will say in Mass, we definitely didn't have as much processed food. And I think that's pretty much everywhere. Like we've gone way, way, way out of zone, basically, when it comes to the processed foods. Even the health foods that they're trying to market you are full of shit. And that's part of what I teach is navigating that. And people wonder why they still have diseases. They're not losing weight and all this, and they're eating all these health foods. Well, they're putting a lot of garbage in them, and our bodies are responding accordingly.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have said it better. I always get confused myself of how even the healthiest foods out there or the made to look like food and, be a healthy option is just still, got canola oil or other forms of, highly processed seed oils, high content amounts of sugar. There's all sorts of things that kind of greenwash the whole product. The labeling says all the stuff we want, all the grass feds, all the the good sourcing, USDA organic, all the things, but it's still just, it doesn't, meet up to the standards.
Yeah. The metaphor I use when I teach is you can take a pile of shit and spray some Chanel on it, and it's still going to be a pile of shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, polished turds, people
Yes.
always use that analogy as well. So yeah, I mean, in that direction, was it something like as a kid or as a teenager that just really sparked you on your journey of nutrition?
It was more again in college when I started evaluating more, and I had read an old book now called Body Opus,
Okay.
and it was about controlling carbs, and less of the processed foods were available. I mean, they were there, but they weren't like we were living on them as we are now. But that really changed how I understood like the macronutrients and how they interact in your body. And in my degree program, which is exercise science and nutrition, really getting down to the nitty gritty of biochemically what each one of those things does in your body and understanding that. And I'm a nerd. I am the one sitting on PubMed reading science articles at like 9 p.m. at night. That's me. So I love to deep dive into the biochemistry of how things are acting in your body and whatnot.
Yeah, no, I mean we need people like you on the front line doing that kind of research just because I don't think there's enough of these conversations being had are also around like just the overall thumbprint of every person is going to be different. Every person is going to need something a little bit different or tweaked, especially if you have different goals that are oriented towards different, things. So I just think it's really great that you're so dedicated to the passion of food and the relationships that people have with it. It's clear that for a long time now, you've had a good relationship with food. So tell me, explain to the audience, like what you think has been just kind of your canary in the coal mine or your cornerstone for the last, 2 decades that has helped you personally versus the fact that you help so many other people on their journey. Like what's helped you personally?
Well, actually, I kind of want to talk about what's hurt me personally, actually.
Ah, okay, okay.
Yeah, throw a little monkey wrench into it because this is my profession. So you would think I have zero problems, right? But doesn't end up being that way. So within that past 2 decades that you mentioned, I was in a very abusive relationship. Like literally every form of domestic abuse on the pamphlet, I can hit the check mark. So I've experienced all of that. One of those things is it's helped me to better understand myself, but also helping other people navigate their relationships with food and self-sabotage and willpower. I personally think there's no such thing as willpower. It is only your brain trying to protect you from something it's scared of. And for me, I have the muscle structure to compete with pretty much anybody on stage who's natural, I will say. I don't want to be going down the road of the not natural girls, which more power to them that they want to do that. Great.
Yeah, yeah.
But on a but on a natural level, like I can compete. Like I got muscle,
Look at that. Yeah.
I got cleavage, muscle. So I can compete with anybody on stage. And I had, when I was in this relationship, leaned down, prepped, which is like, for your audience who might not realize this is 12 weeks of measuring, weighing every damn spoonful of everything that goes in your system. Okay.
Right.
So it's not, I mean, it's not for the faint of heart. Let me just put it that way. So there's a lot that goes into it. And when you are in an abusive relationship, usually that person, their demons start to come out as you do better and better. And as I was leaning down, guys will be guys. Guys say guy things when you walk by. Guys look when you're at a beach or in a restaurant. And there was many a times there was nearly fist fights over it, which puts me in the middle. But also home got worse because he would start to insult me and make me feel bad about myself so that I didn't keep going down that path. But I kept going down that path. I was backstage and he was berating me for taking his Saturday away from him so that he could watch the kids while I took Saturday to do this for myself. And people don't realize I didn't actually step on stage. I told my friends I just didn't do well. And because I was in tears. I couldn't step on stage after 12 weeks of this. And fast forward to me getting out of that situation and going, guess what? Now I have nobody holding me back. I'm doing the thing. So I'd get about 3 weeks in to prep and I go, oh, I'm not good enough. And all those little voices, you're not good enough. This isn't healthy. Don't do it. All of the voices that could possibly stop me from progressing. And then I'm in a cycle of, this is my profession. Why the hell can I even follow my own plan? This is stupid. But that led me down a path of really investigating as I was dealing with the PTSD of the actual things that were happening to me. It hit me one day. I meditate a lot, and this is one of the ways that I've healed.
Right.
I went, son of a bitch, that's why I can't follow through with this. I am so scared to put myself in that heartbreak situation again. Even though my conscious knows I'm not in the situation anymore. But that little subconscious brain just trying to protect itself comes forward. I find that in addictions, food. So that's why my theory is there is no such thing as willpower. We have to figure out what your brain is protecting you from. Even though it doesn't make sense when you just say it out loud, you're like, what the hell? That doesn't make no sense. But it's just a self-preservation mechanism. So at this point, I am thankful for those things that I went through so that I can hold the door for others to come through it.
That's a very powerful story that you just shared with me. Thank you, first of all, for just opening up to me and sharing that with me first and foremost. I just want to give you the, props for enduring that kind of journey that led you to something as, I wouldn't really use the word simple, but I think that we put food in such a box, such a small box, because no matter what, you have to eat food. So you kind of just go through life grabbing it and you don't really think about it. And some people's relationship is A, B, C, or X. And so go ahead.
I was going to say, to your point, like when you quit alcohol and get sober, when you quit smoking, you can quit smoking. You can't quit eating. It's a different component.
No, you're totally right, because no matter what's going on in your life, like you were experiencing, you still have to eat, or not at all, or very little, or enough to, I was listening to Chris Williamson speak about There was a man who it was in, I believe, World War II. That I mean, by the time that he by the end of his life, I mean, he really could only eat like little spoonfuls of rice because from being like a prisoner of war and all these other things that had happened to him and being tortured, his stomach had just shrunk to like the size of, you know, a couple of ounces. And so I just find it very courageous that you're helping people and you found a passion through feeling good and spreading that goodness when for a while you did not feel good. You did not have that energy or that you were saying bandwidth earlier to just do any of that, so congrats to you because what you're doing is important. The journeys you're taking people on and you're taking them through and having them begin are very important because it's not about like lifting heavy weights and eating perfect. That's completely like you can't do it. But if you can show people that each individual person can take themselves from one point to the next point to the next point in a slower, more progressive direction, people see change in that. They see the real shape of their body starting to form out genetically, whatever it's going to happen, if you're big, tall, small, wide, whatever, but feeling metabolically healthy is so different than just like, oh, did you see Terry lost 30 pounds? He looks great. That's great. That's awesome. Like lose the weight, please. But like feel the weight being lost as opposed to it just kind of being sucked away. Like, almost like liposurgery without liposurgery, just because there's a lot of people who lose weight really unhealthy, in an unhealthy manner. And it just seems like you're on that path to showing people it's all about the slow grind, but the good grind, the good progression.
Well, and a lot of people come to me after they've done other programs and they rebounded because they didn't learn the foundations because you're just buying bars and you're eating bars every 2 hours when your phone pings.
Bars and shakes. Yeah. I get it.
It tanks your metabolism, tanks your thyroid, and then you go back to normal and you balloon up again. And the emotional roller coaster that goes with, wow, you're successful, and then it starts to creep back up. That's a hurtful mental roller coaster as well.
Right. Were you like with your athletic background as a kid? Have you kind of always been like more muscular, more lean, more just fit?
So again, that goes back to a little psychology too. Yes, I have always been a big girl. I am a sprinter body.
Okay.
I've always had like a sprinter caboose. That's what I call it.
Did you ever have a... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, as a kid, did you ever have like a favorite childhood snack that you would always take to the track meets or anything like that? That was like your secret little snack or like your fun little, bag of, Gatorades or snacks or stuff like that?
So I wouldn't recommend it now.
Yeah.
Okay, knowing what I know.
You're not the first person to start that before they have their tips. I like this. So go on.
Okay. So there was a place up north. I don't know if it's everywhere up north called Brugger's Bagels.
Oh yeah. I've heard of Brugger's.
They have this honey wheat one that, oh my God, it was so freaking good. And then you take it and you drizzle more honey all over it. And so that like on meat days, we'd walk downtown because that's when they actually let you leave school and whatever.
Of
in
course.
your lunch period. So we'd walk downtown, get the bagels, and then walk back, So that was kind of my pregame thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that just because there's a gentleman that I, watch his content and follow kind of what he does, and his pre-workout is just raw honey that's glyphosate free with a little bit of Redmond sea salt. Just because for him, for whatever reason, a big scoop of honey and dousing it in sea salt and just kind of, taking it is very helpful for him in the gym. So I don't know if there's any, thing behind it, but he'll show his vascular, his veins, and I don't know. It's good content though.
And that's one of the things that you mentioned earlier. Everybody's different. Like, I wouldn't do that. I prefer to
Nope.
work out fasted or with some MCT powder in my coffee or something like that. But that's me. That's how I thrive. I am a fat adapted athlete. I live mostly keto carnivore. But at the same time, I teach people, like, I have some clients who have a little bit of higher carbohydrate balance than I do because that's where they thrive.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
thrive lower. So and that's one of the things in the industry you're probably seeing. This influencer says, I live zero carb and I'm loving life. And then you got this one over here going, I have like 300 grams of carbs a day and I'm loving life. Well, how can they both be right? Well, they're both maybe right for their body
Yep. And that's
and their
what
activity and,
oh yeah.
all of that. And even something you mentioned earlier that everybody's different. Well, you're even different on certain days than other days. So that's one of the reasons, and this is a side note, I don't believe in macro tracking, calorie counting, none of that. I teach people to realign with their instincts. And if you're craving an avocado, there's the fat that you're craving or something, or like an olive or pickle, you're craving the salt. And so you really have to play with what works for you. Just because influencers say X, Y, or Z, they're not you and they're not you today.
I like that because I've never thought of it like that. I've kind of always thought of it as like you're you now, tomorrow, and next week. So that's really interesting to even think about that just because there should be more conversations kind of, based around that aspect of it. And I wish there was more at home and like handheld or some sort of information that you could like see what your body like needs for the day. Like that'd be kind of interesting if like you had some sort of like gut reader or something, like almost like, I mean, this sounds so silly, but this is me, the cook brain restaurant guy. If you could like have something as quick as I can test the sanitation level in my dishwasher, like a strip, like if I could put it on my tongue and then just
Right.
the color or like whatever the mapping like told you you need that for the day, or if they even had something that like scanned your mouth, like something digitally, just like but I don't know. I'm just thinking outside the box because that's where my brain goes. But I would hope that in the future, because there's so many saturated conversations around this type of subject, that more Western medicine and more conventional nutrition pays attention to this kind of thing, and we just start having more of a even keel of people who are feeling better versus kind of this normal being sick is normal, being unhealthy is normal.
Can I just use that as a segue for my soapbox for a second?
Lay it on me.
Literally, I mean, you probably read my mind. Your ESP must be kind of strong right now. I literally have a client who came to me. Her A1C, which is like a measure of your glucose over time,
Uh-huh.
sort of, for folks who are listening.
Yeah, and like it's for diabetics too, correct?
Right. So it's measuring like your glucose levels, and then is it pre-diabetic, insulin resistant, and actually diabetic?
Mm-hmm.
And I will also put a caveat. Alzheimer's is now being called type 3 diabetes. There is a progression from
Oh yeah.
pre-diabetes to diabetes to Alzheimer's now.
It's almost like your whole system gets so clogged up with everything that your memory and your brain just starts to go too.
The brain stops being able to use glucose is what happens.
It sounds like super woo science, but it's like very unhealthy people are on their way to losing their brain power too.
Well, and we are seeing such a spike of Alzheimer's all of a sudden. But literally, this girl, she's 40, give or take.
Okay.
Her A1C is elevated. So she's not quite pre diabetic, but she's like toeing the line of getting higher.
She's on the edge.
And her doctor literally told her, and I kid you not, these words: don't worry about it. Everybody's there now.
See, and that's
what?
Like, I know, but it's so unfortunate that that's the type of conversations that most doctors are having with people, and that's kind of where I was at with my blood work, because when I got my blood work done last year, the doctors pretty much told me that, you know, for my age, my testosterone being like 560 or something like that, you know, or like 565, or I can't remember, around, or give or take that range. And they're like, yeah, you know, that's like pretty good, like normal. And I'm like, well, I mean, I've kind of heard, excuse me, I've heard like more in the 800s is kind of. They're like, no, that's the one percenters. That's people who are, you know, more professional athletes and, you know, whatnot. And I was like, well, I don't want to, like, I'm confused here, because I'm told that one thing is healthy, and they're just kind of like, yeah, you know, I mean, anybody from like, you know, 2 to 500, you know, that's pretty, and I'm like, 2 to 500, like, what are you talking about? And so that's when I started doing more research and reaching out to people like blokes and get blokes. My buddy Josh Whalen's company, him and his business partner have a whole men's comprehensive lab. You know, it's great, because I don't want to get on TRT. I don't want to get on anything aggressive. I just want to know at 33 how to go into my next 10 years, because I have friends that are 10 years older than me that have higher testosterone than I do. So, and it's even gotten lower since. I just got my blood work done recently, and it's like 417. And so it's like I'm doing all the things I can that aren't TRT, and I'm trying to not listen to these doctors that are just being like, yeah, everything else is great. You're super healthy. And it's like, okay, well, you're not like listening to what I'm trying to convey to you, that like I need other than conventional help. And you're kind of just telling me that I don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, they don't care that you want to be optimal. They're like, yeah, everybody else is low, so who cares? You'll be low too.
That's why I love that it says fuck normal on all of Josh's hats. It's like, you know, it's
right.
Yeah.
You know, and
you were saying,
I can't spout off the numbers right now because I didn't know that's where this conversation was going, but the whole nation has seen a huge drop in testosterone in men. And so there's a cascade of health problems for you guys when you are low test. So there's nothing wrong with taking a level to at least get you back to normal. Like you said, you're not trying to be Arnold and all the, you know, meatheads out there. You're just trying to be the optimal you.
Yep. As well as it has to do with your relationship with food, because the food that you eat is going to affect your hormones and your body. So it all goes hand in hand for me. Is Are there things, are there supplements? Yes. I'm not saying this is a rhetorical question, but it's gaining the relationship back now with food, supplement, beverage, water, air. It's all the same for me because in 2020, I quit drinking alcohol. I was a serious alcoholic. I was going through a lot of different issues that we don't need to get into. But when I quit drinking, my mind started to get less wet because they call it wet brain when you start to drink so much alcohol that you kind of get a little bit of psychosis. There is a psychosis and a type of like onset or sped up Alzheimer's that's called wet brain from
Interesting.
people who are obscene alcoholics. Like we're talking about like full blown bottles a day or multiple volume, a day. The receptionist in the program that I was in, her father had experienced this because he was drinking 3 bottles of wine a day.
Wow. Wow.
Where you're pretty much just kind of like, you're just in la la land. You're kind of just in like babble, just, you're wasted, obviously, but
Right.
you're just also like incoherent, full blown. So it's just the cognitive aspect of being able to have that back and have that kind of like clear mindset again gives me a better playing field to go off of now, where my organs are now trying to function better. So it's like things like glutathione and good nutrient dense food is where I found the types of help that I've gotten as far as like if I'm going to eat, I want to be eating probably about 3 times a day and actually having a lot of animal protein. And with that is kind of like, I'm not against vegetables. It's just a lot of raw vegetables are really hard on my stomach. B, a lot of vegetables are not sourced as good as you can get meat, because meat can be A or B. You can either go to Costco or the other, proverbial King Supers, Targets, and get, corn fed, whatever grade meat. Or you can go to your local butcher or your local, purveyor and get locally sourced animals that are in your area and support local farmers and get nutrient dense food. But vegetables and fruits, on the other hand, there's only like seasonal farmers markets here in Colorado, at least, as well as like if you're going to eat seasonally, A, that's going to be really hard because of how the system works. And B, sourcing it is just going to be hard as well. So until that day comes, I'm kind of just like, there's a handful of fruits and other vegetables that I eat, but a lot of cruciferous greens and like leafy greens, I just don't really do a ton of because they're kind of hard on my system as well. So I'm kind of with you on the like, not carnivore, not keto, but like just in between a lot of good animal fat, things like that.
Yeah. And, a lot of people don't like to talk about this, but regenerative farms are better for the environment than all these big soybean and corn farms. Can we, like, at the end of the day, those farmers are more beneficial for our environment and supporting them is far better than supporting some plant-based meat that they had to grow and screw up the entire fields of nature, basically, to grow. And I
Yeah,
know that's a controversial topic.
I think that there needs to be more of these less dogmatic conversations because people don't understand too that there's a lot of life that is taken when you harvest soy and other vegetables. Small rodents and bugs and other insects, creatures of all walks of life get killed when harvesting these giant soy and vegetable fields. And so I think that there just needs to be more of an acceptance of nobody's personally going out and murdering small animals for the sake of to tell you that like I got egg on your face, like it's not a flex on anybody that I eat one thing or you eat another. It's the harmonious relationship of eating whole food because again, everybody's different and everybody's got a different thumbprint that they need to kind of go by. And look, if you thrive on more plant-based options, when my brother was in college in the like early 2000s, because he's 41, so he's just about your generation. And I'm 33, so we're 8 years apart. And when it was to be vegetarian or vegan back when my brother was in college, and it was like kind of the hippie radical movement of his time to do that, it really meant that like you were going out and getting things from the local Lawrence farmers markets or the sourced people on the farms in Kansas getting whole food. And it just meant you ate more. You didn't eat anything like pretty much in that direct animal family because we've gone so far of like what is an animal product and what isn't that it's like I don't even know anymore because it's like try this plant-based deli meat. It's turkey, but it's soy, it's furky. And you're like what do you I'm sorry, what are these chicken nuggets that you have? You guys made hot dogs, you guys made everything under the sun that is someone who's used to eating animal products, but it's twice as processed as the like dino chicken nugget. It's twice like you could literally look at the comparison of the ingredients, and at least there's actual chicken in a shitty chicken nugget. Like
right.
It may be mechanically pressed and Tyson sourced, and they shamed the chicken even further before they killed it, but made fun of it. But it's like still chicken. So it's kind of hard when people put boxes and boxes and smaller boxes and smaller boxes on everything, and we've gone just way off the rails of even organic food being compromised to the point of, I saw a sign one time in one of my grandmother's friends, like she told me about it, and my grandma brought it home, and it just says, try eating organic food or what your grandparents called food.
Yes. And I'll bring this up also. Back in the day, and actually my family still has a working produce farm. There aren't many of them left, but still a working produce farm. And, a lot of people in the South will like, well, my grandparents ate biscuits and bread and all of this stuff. Well, number one, It didn't have all the glyphosate and all the shit on the actual wheat and all of that. But on top of that, they'd have maybe 2 biscuits, some bacon that was also from their own pig or their neighbor's pig or something like that. But then they'd literally work in the field for 5 hours before lunch. And then they may have had the biggest bread sandwich you could possibly imagine, but then they'd go work 5 more hours in the field. They're not sitting around like we are, number one, with the chemically laden ingredients, but we're just sitting around in between each feeding. Our grandparents worked all that off. So they were actually metabolically flexible and able to burn fat and sugar. Most people that I come across, their bodies don't even know how to use fat anymore as a fuel. And that's one of the ways that I actually have such great impact in the nutrition program, because I reteach the body to use fat again. And so I think that's another generational thing. Like you said, our grandparents ate food and they ate whatever they wanted, but it was clean. And then they went and worked it off.
Yeah.
Ours is not clean and we sit on our ass.
Yep. Yeah. And my, you know, I mean, no shame in my grandma's game, but she smoked cigarettes for 54 years. And she still maintained like a healthy diet and would, you know, it didn't ultimately kill her, but, you know, it did some damage that she'd, you know, paid for in her later years. But my point is just that she would go and work and do that all the time. But because it wasn't this double down of like, I'm not ever saying ever go smoke cigarettes, but when you live in a time where you have something like cigarettes and ultra processed food, you're basically just, the two are the one and the same.
And, you know, lack of activity on top of it. So you've got like 3 factors.
Exactly. So it's all these, you know, just limiting factors that people are dealing with, to the point where you don't even realize that you're fat, sick, and unhealthy, because you're just, I see it all the time where it's kind of this like go about life type of attitude where somebody's in the grocery store, and I'm not judging, but it's like your whole grocery cart is filled with 4, 5, 12 packs of Coke and chips and frozen and processed food. And you've got all your kids, you know, running on the cart, hanging off of it, picking out stuff. And I see it all the time where it's kind of like the one of the kids will grab something like, you know, ultra processed, just whatever, cinnamon toast crunch, or, you know, gummy worms or fruit snacks or juice or whatever. There's not anything a kid can like even grab and enjoy in a regular grocery store that's not going to just do some sort of damage to them. Where when I was a kid, you had the little carts, the little like kid carts, and like we would just shop for produce because like that's what they had. They didn't have the, like when I was a kid in the 90s and the early 2000s, it was only back then that they were like really starting to pump out some pretty crazy cereal and some other like treats like yogurt that was like Trix yogurt, and
right, which is basically sugar.
Yep, just sugar and like evaporated, you know, not even like dairy. It's just like some sort of other product. But there's all these options now that kids have. So it's kind of wild, like where we've just gone into choice after choice for kids and adults. And then I see adults eating kid food because they're like, Oh, well, I was making PB&Js for the kids, so I just kind of ended up eating four.
Eating for, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was, yeah, it's like, they're like, well, I mean, I'm an adult, dude. It was just there. It was there. Like, I can do, whatever I want. Shut up. It's like, I see it all the time where there's all these like things that people will justify because they have, gone through some journey of being fit and healthy. So every now and again, they'll, smash like I see it's kind of terrible, but I see like videos all the time of like this one guy who's like really, really fit, but it almost looks like he's on steroids and he's just eating like donuts and cakes and pizza and, cookies and chips and Coke and all this other stuff. He's like got like this stupid faux hawk and he's just like, oh, if you work hard, you can have a cheat day like me. And it's like, no, dude, you're selling the wrong, like, gluttony kind of, I don't know. Yeah, it just seems kind of dangerous. But you have guided individuals through a journey of dietary information, helping them harmonize a healthy balance in their life. And you developed a 6-week transformation program because, because of these unhealthy trends that you were seeing in society. What were some of those unhealthy trends that led you to your programming that you developed?
Well, it goes back to helping people find what's best for their body. So there's a template of the program, but then you have individual ability to say, hey, I am thriving when I eat this. Let me eat more of that versus like a canned program that's like, you need this amount of chicken, this amount of broccoli, and this amount of rice, or whatever the case may be. Like, you don't know what I don't know. And I've been doing this a long time. Somebody's going to thrive on. Some people thrive on, like me, the keto carnivore, higher fat sometimes. And then other people thrive on mostly a veggie plate. So there's that. But even like I mentioned earlier, like the sweeteners and stuff like that, they are mixing a lot of health food with food. So stevia is one of my favorite examples of this. Stevia and erythritol is going to act so much different in your body than stevia and maltodextrin. But most people don't know to turn that little green packet over. If you have stevia and maltodextrin combination, you are worse off than if you actually just use regular sugar. But everybody says stevia is good. Stevia is good. But they put this maltodextrin in there or the erythritol because stevia is so potent, they have to put something with it to kind of cut it. And
like
the way
the sweetness or the taste.
It's super sweet. So literally one serving is about like a sesame seed size.
Oh wow!
So you can't open a little packet and hope for a sesame seed size.
Sure. So they have to like cut it with other stuff
to make it like a packet size product.
Sure.
Or measurable size product. And the maltodextrin has a glycemic index higher than regular sugar.
This is so fascinating to me.
And nobody knows this. And so people are trying to do well and not getting anywhere because of information like this. There's so much information of vegan, keto, all of Optavia. There's all these different things coming at you on the market. So I took all the science, all the benefits of different plans, because a lot of them have nuggets of good stuff, but then they have nuggets of bad side, downside. And so I took all that, shook it up, and put one big plan together to kind of minimize the downside and maximize the upside of nutrition for people.
That is pretty mind blowing, just to say the least, because that little nugget right there, just the fact that what you just told me about how they cut stevia packets and basically that, those two molecular structures living together to make like a whole serving of stevia worth it for any company to invest in the manufacturing of it or products that contain it is pretty wild. Because if you think about how many things are advertised as zero sugar, zero artificial sweeteners, zero, 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 but then you look on the back and there's like, just, I can't even pronounce some of the, like some of the sweeteners of the words that they're using. And it just doesn't add up, where it's like, wait, is this good for me? Or I'm confused, but it seems, I mean, maybe I can ask you your opinion on that. What's your opinion on monk fruit then?
Oh, monk fruit is actually my favorite. Monk fruit is wonderful.
Thank God. Yeah.
I like stevia, but there are about a third of the population that taste it as very bitter.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of people who don't like monk fruit either, but I kind of go through the process of like, I've just been told, and now by you as well, that it's much better. It's much better as a glycemic index and how your body registers it. And like, you can still enjoy, there's so many things that I've like really enjoyed now that I've kind of gotten through that wave of like, it doesn't taste like that, like superior, like raw sugar taste, but that's just your brain kind of registering like the gimme the drug crack, So it's like, I feel like that's everybody's brain with sugar, is they're just like, ooh, that's good. That hits, just because immediately it's like setting off so much dopamine. But then you just crash so hard immediately, like the minute that it leaves your palate. But monk fruit just seems like something that I can enjoy because shout out to my buddy Michael Chernow, his company Creatures of Habit, with the meal one and the nightcap, which is like, meal one is like a all-in-one oatmeal with like 30 grams of plant-based protein. They have there's monk fruit and, there's a probiotic and vitamin D in there. But his nightcap is kind of like a sleepy time cocoa, like almost tastes like Swiss Miss. But yeah, it's got monk fruit in it. And I know that there's a difference between like monk fruit sweetener and like monk fruit.
But what you find on the market, the monk fruit sweetener, is great. That is one of the Jess approved sweeteners. Yes.
Heck yeah. No, that's good. Just because, with that kind of knowledge, not just like those two things alone. What I'm speaking on the point is that you've been able to balance the one kind of like kryptonite for a lot of people, because if you are able to kind of like legit, like literally weigh out your sugar intake or how sugar enters your body or how you treat the sugar that's around you, because I remember when I was a kid, I didn't believe that there was sugar in ketchup.
Right.
When I was a little kid, because I loved, the one night a week when my parents would make, Kansas City boy right here, smoking burgers or, grilling up some burgers or steaks or whatever. And, barbecue, ketchup, French fries, onion rings, like that's all there. It's all there. And so the spread is there. And so when I was a kid, I was like, oh, well, but ketchup is like so savory to me. I don't understand how there's like, but sugar is sweet. Like, I don't understand that. But then it just, as you get older, your taste buds start telling you, oh, yeah, that's like whatever that back end flavor is, that's like supposed to be vinegar. It is, but it's also a shitload of sugar. And, and then when for me, the first time I ever had ketchup that was just made by hand, I was absolutely blown away because I was like, oh my God, this like tastes like it should. Because there's like only a little bit of like just a little bit of sweetness in there, not
Mm-hmm.
like this overbearing Heinz, amount of sugar.
Right. Right.
So wild though, because like you're now able to cater so much to people because you look at this food item, you look at that food item, you look at this beverage, you look at that beverage, like everything that's not water. And you're just like, okay, so Brian, for example, we did your blood work, we got back some gut sensitivity, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to do. I think it's so great that you're catering people around sugar because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it just, you're really doing a lot of work around that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because I'll also say the two factors that contribute to all of our modern disease pretty much. And yes, people are like, there's genetic issues. Okay, I'm not talking about the genetic issues. I'm looking at like heart disease and cancers and all of the diabetes and the consequences of that. The two factors are insulin and inflammation. Those two things, if we can control those two things, we control your disease risk. The end. Period.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like, what is one of the number one causes of inflammation?
There's your seed oils that they're in everything.
Sugars.
But you go to the grocery store and canola has this big old heart on it and says heart healthy.
Yeah, that or just like anything that, it's like Honey Nut Cheerios where they say the same thing, like heart healthy, but like they're just made with, rapeseed oil, which is just another word for canola oil, and just, which is also an aggressive word anyway. Like, I don't like saying it, but it's just weird that like, it's weird that there's like this seed and these seed oils that were originally used to lubricate heavy machinery in the Industrial Revolution, but then didn't have any use for them afterwards. So here we are, generations and generations later, eating them because they went into animal food, they went into our food, they went into, all the other things that are made up with them, whether it's this, that, or the third. And so now we're just stuck. And so I love that I'm having this conversation with you because it's very helpful for me in my life just to continue to read labels, continue to, have that research on how white sugar is like affecting me and where it's getting into my life because, I mean, I'll be honest, like, I don't think I've ever craved sugar more than when I stopped drinking alcohol. And there's like something to that. I've read into the science multiple times over with people where your brain goes into some sort of flip because the alcohol converts into so much sugar or like, whatever that is, where the sugar being converted from the alcohol is fueling so much of a pressing that button over and over again that when you stop, it's like sweets and candies and treats and hard white sugar, is just gonna do it for you. So
get that button hit again.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll be honest, like once a month, I like to have like a glass bottle of Coke. Like just like every now and again, just like once a month, just like on ice cold just like I'll even drink half of it and give it half to my roommate, you know. But it's nice every now and again for the for that. But other than that, I mean, I just don't like to. I know how bad it is for me, so I just don't even toe that line any further.
Yeah. And one of the things I teach, is you're allowed to have that now and then. I mean, I made my grandmother's recipe of, we call it apple pizza, but it's like an apple strudel thing. And yes, I put like hardcore vanilla ice cream on it, and I enjoyed the hell out of it last night because it was a family thing. My daughter was in town for one night. That's what she wanted. Okay, great. That's what I make. And then I move on. I had it one serving. I want people to be able to have a serving of something and then just go, that was cool, and move on. You don't have to have the plates like that guy you were talking about with the big old cheat meal that he had. You can have
Yep.
a serving and go, that was great. Let me move on.
Yeah,
I encourage that, actually.
absolutely. I mean, I've found that there's a lot of things in life, like, for example, I love cheeseburgers, but I'm not going to just go and get a McDonald's cheeseburger because I know that it's going to be delicious and hit all the dopamine receptors for 10 seconds that I'm chewing a bite. And after the 5 minutes of eating it, it'll be over. And then I'll feel like sad afterwards. But
Back to square one.
yeah, exactly. And then you're like, well, I just took in like 389 calories in one burger. Fuck. And so I found that things like locally sourcing ground beef, going and getting the thing that makes them flat, like a diner burger, like flattening it out, with wax paper, or if you want to even get, organic wax paper and go a step further, the paraffin free, and just on the cast iron with the onions and the mustard and everything, and then also cooking it in animal fat, cooking it in tallow, cooking it in lard, cooking it in actual animal fat. And so then when that's done, go and either eat it like a Flying Dutchman, like no bun, just straight up. Yep. Or if you want to get fancy, go and actually like support a local bakery and get some brioche buns. Or if you want to even go crazy, I had just recently, my girlfriend ordered a sourdough starter to our house because I learned how to make sourdough during the pandemic. And so I'm going to get back into that. And so it's like, you want to eat a little sourdough, a little burger, this, that. It's like, there's ways to enjoy that. Or even, I got one of those Ninja Creamies. I've been making protein ice cream and other, like healthier options of desserts that are like sorbet or ice cream, but it's not, thousands of calories or, 70 grams of sugar plus an added 44 or whatever the heck,
Right.
I mean, it kind of astonishes me to see the numbers of like a can of Mountain Dew, or
Yes.
even when you go and you get like, the like canned Lipton sweet tea or something, that stuff's like still like, and it has the same amount.
So high. So high.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where I've learned that there's so many hidden ways to not necessarily just gain weight, but to not be able to lose it. Because, like,
Right.
I feel like there's been this point in my life where I'm like, I get like where's my six pack? And it's not like that. Like, it's just that, like, you're like, oh, you kind of like haven't been working as hard as everybody and you've just been eating whatever you wanted. So, that's probably the reason.
Right? Little self-reflection moment.
Yep. And so then it's kind of just like, once you gain a better relationship with things and you stop. I mean, I hate to say it this way, but this isn't even my quote. This is from Ryan Fish. He's like, stop eating like an asshole. He's like, it's not your scale. It's not your, program. It's you. It's you doing it. He's like, it also could be your program, because if you're not like lifting heavy weights and you're not actually like incorporating enough, like at least even just getting 10,000 steps a day, and you're not like doing progressive overloading where you're week after week continuing to go to the gym to get heavier lifts, or even if like you get to a point of like lifting heavy and then you just stay at a maintenance way, but then you still are maintaining a diet and a nutrition level that's like not just, oh, well, I ran 7 miles, so now I'm just going to eat like literally whatever. Like, I'm just going to go home.
It doesn't work that way.
You can't, it's like, even if you're the god of running and your metabolism of, just a freak metabolism, you can't outrun a bad diet and you can't outlift bad choices. It just doesn't.
Nope, you can't.
Just doesn't work like that.
And they go hand in hand. And one of the things that I always tell people is, if you are looking for body composition changes in health, the most bang for your buck is coming from nutrition. Exercise only enhances that.
That's a very good hard statement to kind of go by, because like when I worked at REI, it was all about being inclusive to everybody that's trying to come into the store and get into a new adventure. Because, there's a lot of people who you would look at them and be like, you want a mountain bike? But that, first of all, that'd be rude. And second of all, it'd be like throwing them just out of the idea of being able to say, oh, well, why don't we just find like a heavier frame and set of, wheels and gear for your body type? Because if you're just starting out, then, you'll probably want something of this caliber. And then, we'll get you this gear for a helmet and stuff. 3-4 weeks later, if that person is dedicated enough, I've seen it over and over again where that person starts to turn into this person, and then this person, and then the framework of that person. And it's all the same human being, but there's this mental and physical change that it goes beyond the complex of, oh, you've lost weight. It's way more than that, because they've gained a relationship with something that is fueling their mind to be sharper, their body to look better. And it's probably outside of that too, that we can only hope that they've been making better choices in the kitchen. Or if you're around a community of people, kind of like what I've experienced the last year and a half, is you start noticing people eating certain things or bringing certain things to the gym, or, you go on a coffee or you have dinner with your friends that you work out with, or you start hanging out with the people that you do like gym activities with, because it's like riding bikes, whether it's the road or the mountain or hiking, etc. You start doing all that stuff with people, and they just kind of start telling you more about themselves. And that just like goes along with what they eat. So pretty interesting just because you're dialing in and designing programs for clients and accepting clients for who they are and what they are right then and there. And then you're able to reflect with them as they progress these older versions of themselves that they get to see once they start trading out, different things. And I think it's really cool that you get to see each unique person's journey. And so that being a strategy and you believing that it's so essential for breaking the cycle of temporary fixes and achieving sustainable health improvements. Tell me why you think this philosophy is so important.
Well, I've literally had like I know this sounds basic, but they change their lives to where they're playing with their grandkids again and they're running with their kids again. It's literally life-giving. And there's not really words strong enough to convey. And I'm an empath too, so I feel their feels. And there's just nothing that compares to watching a person. And I have a couple people who had like 100 plus pounds to lose, give up. And then their friend went through the program and they finally called me and said, okay, I've been let down by everybody else, but I'm going to trust you because my friend trusted you. And I see what you've done with her. And then when you see her now hanging out with her kids and participating in life, and she'd given up. She had given up. And there's just nothing. I believe I've been given a gift and my purpose on this planet. I can't change everybody, but I will change everybody who comes to me.
Yeah, that's a really good.
I need to write that one down on Facebook later.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Remind me if I don't.
Yeah, no worries. I'm just saying, yeah, that's kind of like you can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you.
Right.
No, that's really cool. I mean, I think that sentiment alone is really important for people to recognize, just because we all want to feel healthy. We all want to feel good. We all want to just like enjoy life. And I think it's hard because crappy food tastes good. Like really, really, really bad food, just tastes really, really good. And it's like there's not enough choices that are directly in front of us that are allowing us to kind of live like a very carefree life without having something kind of fish hook you, or
you
something.
You kind of have to. So I do teach people, plan ahead, is helpful. Have this in your car, that in your car. Here's what to get at convenience stores. Because there is stuff. I'll get stuff at convenience stores on occasion if we're traveling or whatnot, But I also teach people to make food that's yummy. Like, let's be real. Bacon is freaking good. And cheese is freaking good. And I can teach you to eat all of that.
Yeah, especially if you get raw cheese or good source cheese. It doesn't even have to be raw. It's like if it's just good cheese from a good cow, a healthy cow. And same thing goes with bacon. If you're going to get, Berkshire pigs, or if you're going to get locally sourced pigs, or just artisanal pigs, it's like that's where it's at. But yeah, and again, and earlier, not to get so gushy about it, but it's like I'm just really like taken back by the conversation we've had so far, just because you're a very important entity in, this field. And I just think that it's great what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I will definitely be hitting you up for some recipes and some ideas, because I'd love to share some of your content and just like your recipes on my page and like recreate some of the things that you have, because I think that's one of my biggest obstacles is like cooking healthy food for other people, because so many people have so many restrictions and stuff. So it's always good to like know just different recipes and different, things that I can have in my back pocket. So again, keep doing what you're doing, because I think that everybody is going to benefit from the program that you're, obviously it's beyond a 6-week transformation. It's a lifestyle transfer.
Lifestyle. It is.
Yeah.
And it is 6 weeks because you see a huge difference in 6 weeks, and it's laid out in 6-week cohorts, basically. But everybody who goes through the 6-week program automatically gets put into the alumni program. So you have me for life, because I think that's important. This is a lifestyle. You're human. You're going to go up. You're going to go down. You're going to have moments where you kind of lose track, but you can always reset and come back into a current cohort as an alumni, because I think that's important.
Yep, absolutely. So, like, to kind of repackage my question earlier, because again, thank you so much for sharing your deep rooted history and what led you to going down this path and the abuse that you experienced, because you're very strong for going through that. So, don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget that. But personally, do you have any nutritional goals for yourself this year? Because you're so caught up in other people's diets and eating habits. Do you dial in on your own habits as well?
I actually I have just decided that I am going to lean down to at least close to competition level. And then if the stars align and a competition is close by that I resonate with doing, then I won't be too far out of the game. So,
Okay.
yeah, I am putting my own feet to the fire a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. So that just means that like, and I know what you mean too, where like earlier you were talking about the, let's not say like complete, there's like no use at all, but I know what you were saying about like measuring your macros and your calories and all these things. There is like, for me at least, it was cool to learn like how many calories are in certain things and like how my body responds to a certain amount of calories or anything like that. But so does that mean you're just going to be dialing in like the grams of carbs, the amount of protein, the amount of this, that, the elimination of this?
No, I will probably just. So the way I have like the 6 weeks laid out, there's leniency built in there. I probably just be like super strict about the days, and just really home in on that. I still don't. Now, if it gets closer to competition and I'm actually leaning down for competition, like if there's one on the schedule, yeah, I would bear down a little bit on that. But just really home in and just make sure I'm on track with my days and
cool. What's your favorite kind of protein?
There's actually one that I like. It's called Prime. And it's actually a beef-based protein, but it doesn't taste like beef. And trust me, when I tell you, I have tried everyone on the market, and I have tried other ones that when they first came out with the beef, and it's like vomit level. You don't want to drink chocolate beef. Like that is not a cool flavor. But whatever Prime has done, they dialed it in, and I think theirs is fantastic.
Yep. So is beef your favorite animal protein, or do you like chicken more?
Oh, I like it all.
Yeah.
I like it all. Sometimes I crave ground beef. Believe it or not, I don't want a steak. It's too irony for me after I was pregnant with my son. I could just eat a wrought iron fence, and that's what a filet tastes like to me.
Yeah, right. No, I understand.
A ground beef, for some reason, I don't taste that irony. So it depends. If I'm craving, like this week, I was craving beef. So I had beef. I am not craving chicken right now. I don't want chicken. So I don't eat chicken. So it really ebbs and flows in what my body's asking for.
But yeah, so that kind of thing is still just that's not gonna affect that, like the competition weight or
no.
anything.
So I might dial in like beef is a little higher fat, which is fine, but then I'll cycle through leaner protein days like shrimp and chicken and seafood, so that's how I would navigate that.
My favorite aspect of the whole bodybuilding competition is a little odd, but I love those videos of the guys who are clearly like as pale as I am in real life, but they're completely spray tanned. And
they're so
like,
orange.
Or like just oddly like bronzy dark. Like they just look like
they're creepy.
Yeah, well, it's weird because I hate that I'm saying this, but it's almost like you look like someone who has the skin tone of a Middle Eastern man, but you look like your name's, Connor McPherson, and like,
right?
and like, spiky blonde hair or brown hair. But then the best is then when they're like totally done with the competition, they're done like doing all their poses and everything, and they're done. Like no matter if they've won or they're getting judged, but a guy will just like walk up to them with like a glazed donut, and they're just like,
right?
They're just like
salivating.
They're like, I've never heard of donuts before. Can I try what's in your, or if it's, clearly for them, but they're like, they'll make the whole speech of like, I haven't had a carb or any sugar for, 10 months. Like,
right.
And it's comical just because it's like, that just shows you what it does, like what our society celebrates and how people react to treats.
Yeah, exactly.
It's insane, but at the same rate, I'm just bringing that up as an example because it's good conversation, but I respect that there's something in what you're saying too, is like, if it's 10 months and you're going to enjoy it and it's for a competition and because you want to look like completely shredded, so you have to like, be a little dehydrated, be a little bit more strict on the diet, at least on the day. I know that they don't drink a lot of water because of
right. Correct. Yeah. You don't drink that day.
But still, it's an interesting concept in the world that we want to, like I think Arnold was saying at one time of like, people are looking at the sculpted body, but they don't understand how much work how much work we're putting into, doing this, because you're still going to the gym, you're still getting up and you're getting after it. And you have to hit a certain amount of, you got to eat a lot of food, to do all this. Some people even go to different extremes of, oh, I ate 36 eggs today.
Right.
Like, holy moly. Like, but
and I'm probably not going to be there. And I'm just saying, I'm going to get to myself close to that level, and then we'll see if the show lines up and all of that. But,
I
on a normal human existence level.
absolutely no. I just think it's really cool that you said it yourself. You're putting your own program to the test to see like what happens, and I think that's cool just because that allows you to have a little bit of some weight to work with when it comes to your clients, and you get to know a little bit more of yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So
Totally.
I think that's really, really cool. Do you have like I always ask people as kind of like a wrap up fun little question. Do you have like a cheat meal, or I've kind of tweaked it a little bit, something that you used to like just go bananas on that you've kind of either dialed back the serving. So every now and again, you're like, okay, I'm going to have like this little treat, and then I'm going to close Pandora's box on that for another X amount of months. Or is it like something like with me where I love burgers and milkshakes, but I've now made like tallow burgers with like protein ice cream with like, no sugar or anything added, to it. So that's kind of my little, thing sometimes. Oh, and I'll make like tallow fries. So I'll like cut up, nice potatoes into French fries and then like fry them in animal fat. So is there anything like that that you've been able to kind of twist around?
Oh, I've twisted a lot around. So that's part of my program. But if I was going to have a thing, I
Like a
actually
favorite?
I love a mozzarella stick.
Ooh.
I just love a mozzarella stick. I know that's really random, but
I see all
mostly
those
because I
viral
want one
videos of the
right
big
now.
ones.
This is why I'm saying it. But um, and then as far as like something like last night, I made this apple pizza that's my grandmother's recipe. One serving, great, done. Move on.
Nice, nice. Yeah, no, that's like I said, it's always good to hear people who have come from either, not having a balance or having to be super restrictive. And then at one point, when you have your own choice, you just go kind of crazy with it. Like, I think everybody's had that moment in their life where nobody's watching and you can eat as much sweets as you want. And then you kind of learn your lesson of like, whoa, that's too much. But or it doesn't even, it could even be like fast food, it can still make you feel like crap. And so I just like to ask people because it's either me being able to learn from a human perspective of the relationship with food that people have balanced through the years and now can still every now and again, instead of you having that apple dessert every single night for dessert. That wouldn't work out. And you can't just have one bite of it because that's stupid. And so,
Oh yeah, I have a whole serving. Don't get me wrong. There's a whole bowl of it with some ice cream on top. But
yeah, but that's it.
then
That's
it's done.
for a good long time.
Yes, that'll
That's to
probably
say,
be till
like,
Thanksgiving.
no, exactly. And so that's what I'm saying is that because in between, there are all these things that people make now with healthier sweeteners and added protein and other options that make it easier in the long term things versus the like really concentrated version of like the dessert or the thing. And who knows, maybe there's a way in the future that you can make like I'm not sorry. I'm sorry, Grandma. I'm not diminishing Grandma's recipe. But like, if you made like a protein ice cream that's vanilla, and then you, I don't know, made the same apple recipe, but like with like a protein ice cream or something. But
Yeah,
that's just me saying words.
heard.
Yeah, awesome. Well, honestly, I have really enjoyed our conversation today. I think that it's been just lovely getting to know you. So let's wrap this up here. Thank you for joining me today on our flavorful journey here at Clean Plates. If you enjoyed our exploration into the world of food and the stories behind our eating habits, be sure to subscribe where you get your podcasts. And don't forget to share your own food stories on my personal page at Brian Waterleaf or the Clean Plates podcast page on Instagram. And remember, every plate has a story and we are here to discover them together. So stay curious, keep exploring, and continue to nurture your relationship with food. I'm Brian Romaine, and until next time, keep your plates clean and your hearts full.